and we have so much to talk about. The big two things are Warhammer: The Old World, as well as Marvel's Crisis Protocol, which comes out today. So exciting!
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk
Um,
about Marvel Crisis Protocol.
yeah. So this has been skirmish miniature games in the works for a pretty long time. We're finally getting the release of it today, so I'm super pumped about it. For those that don't know, Marvel Crisis Protocol is a Marvel's hobby miniatures game, and the hobby part is really accentuated because these are all 40 millimeter scale heroes that are out of hard plastic that you build and paint, and you get to make your own version of the Marvel universe with them, which I think is kind of exciting. The game itself is played on a 3 foot by 3 foot play field, which is great because it fits on most like kitchen tables or really any table. And the game itself comes with the terrain you need to play it. So the starter box is dropping today. It's $99. You get 10 characters, a full set of terrain, the rule books, the widgets, the dice, every single thing that you need to start playing this game. So it's a fantastic pickup for 99 bucks. And then we also have the Incredible Hulk and MODOK releasing today with it, as well as additional terrain, dice, and rulers and rangefinders for the game.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
good. So then, what are the characters that come out with it?
So the characters in the core box set are going to be 5 heroes, 5 villains, even though it doesn't necessarily really matter for your alignment. But you're going to get some of the most notable of Avengers: Captain America, Iron Man, Spider Man, uh, excuse me, Black Widow, and Captain Marvel. And that's going to be paired off against 5 of the nefarious members of the Cabal, which is going to be Red Skull, Ultron, Crossbones, Baron Zemo, and who's that last one? I'm blanking. There's another one. Oh, Doctor Octopus. How can I
I was gonna
forget
say
Doctor
Doc Ock
Octopus?
is in there, right?
Yeah, he's my favorite one of the entire lot. And then, like I said before, releasing alongside an additional character expansions are the Incredible Hulk and MODOK. So those are the 12 characters that launch today with the terrain kits and everything that you need to play. And the game's really great because you get to mix and match any heroes and villains that you want in your roster building selection. So the game is very objective based. Each person brings half of a scenario with them. So one person will bring an extraction mission, which is going to be, for some reason, grabbing an item or securing a person and leaving with them. And then there's the secure missions, which are going to be holding points or holding objectives or items, basically staying still versus moving something around the board. And so the game isn't just a Marvel beat 'em up, right? Like you're not the what is it? I always explained it as it's not just straight murder ball. Like you're not going in there with the intention of wiping out your opponent to the last man. The game is very much a cat and mouse or highly tactical. How you are going to manage getting the most points while preventing your opponent from scoring as well, which I find to be a really refreshing side of it because you get to play with those characters that you love, and you don't really have the risk of them getting knocked off the table before you have a chance to really like get the experience with them.
Which happens
So
all the time in other games where it's like, oh,
yeah,
mass battle games. It's very easy to knock things off.
right. And so like the skirmish game, it's like at least the combat is a little bit slower paced, as in like there's no like real one hit KOs right in the game, which is to me really exciting, and it also fits into that comic book kind of feel to it. It's really hard to kill a character, but it's very easy to knock them out, right?
Right. So then I heard they were talking about how you can take any character combination you want, so it's not
Yep.
restricted to good guys, bad guys, or whatever. But
Yes.
then eventually you take 10 characters at a time. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's the nice thing about the starter box, right? Like you can play heroes versus villains on it, or any combination of the characters in there. So 5v5. But full size games, you get to bring a roster of 10, 10 of any characters you feel like. And what happens is after you and your opponent put your two different scenarios together to make one scenario for the game to be played with, that's when you actually get to select the characters from your 10-man roster that get to go with you into that game. So the scenarios will have threat levels to them. So like a threat level of 17 means that you get to bring more or less 17 points of characters into that mission. Now, some characters will be 2 points, where other characters, like let's say like the Hulk, is going to be something like 6 or 8 points, right? I don't have this card with me, so I couldn't tell you the exact number. Now, this is all like a really exciting thing because it lets you see the objectives that you're trying to get, and you get to tailor your way to that. Or you can even play some mind games. We're saying like, oh, hey, my opponent is playing a really slow team, and I have access to, or like every character on his roster is really slow, and I have access to a lot of really fast characters. Let's take all the fast characters and just run circles around them, literally, with all the objectives. So there's a lot of planning to it, but also at the end of the day, I know I was talking with one of my friends. He was like, I don't care what the mission is. I don't care, who my opponent is. I'm always bringing Thor and Venom, no matter what.
That's great.
And that's another viable way to play because the game is about using these characters that you love and that you've grown up with, and getting to play with them on a field and getting to see these crazy matchups. I always love it because people are like, how do you explain the Thor on one team versus Thor on the other? Marvel Comics has done a great way of explaining that. There's different dimensions, there's scrolls, there's cloning, there's evil robot impersonators, and it's really great because your side can say the other team's evil robot impersonators, and the other team can say your side is Skrulls. Easy enough. Marvel Comics has done such a good job of explaining, why there are multiple characters across different, across the field from each other. So
or time travel, like in game.
Oh yeah, time travel is another great response. So, and these are things that you and the people playing with you can come up together with. Like you can make a comic book narrative with it, which I think would be really fun. We might eventually do some sort of league thing where you get to select a couple of heroes and you and your opponents will kind of make your own comic book story arc out of it. Yeah, I mean, that's like such a cool thing. It's such a great intellectual property. It goes along with like the Star Wars thing, getting the Star Wars world in which you can like jump into is such a huge treat for fans, right? Like being in control of Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or Obi-Wan, it's all kind of that like fan service, like gratification that we kind of look for. And the nice thing with Crisis Protocol too is since it's a miniatures game, the longer it's out, the better it does, the more heroes and villains they'll release. There's my not funny running joke is that I keep pushing for Sauron, the pterodactyl man from the X-Men / Spider-Man, to be added in to the game because he's one of my favorite characters. And it's possible that if the game goes on long enough, they'll eventually get to Sauron,
So the spandex suit, right?
No, so he's just loincloth. He's just a pterodactyl man in a loincloth. God bless.
That's great.
It's possible. It's possible to see all these fan favorites eventually get added. Like, John, for some reason, I feel like you're a big Howard the Duck fan.
Yes.
And I don't know. It just kind of it just pops in my head when I think of the trolliest character you could play on a table field or table. But it's all possible that we get to see these characters and then we get to like make new stories and interact with them in different ways. And the game itself, while it does have a very, it is set up for a competitive, like one-on-one, like tournament style game. The real strength is the narrative games with it. So they're already coming out with like special objectives, events to play in which the point is not necessarily to beat up your opponent, but to play through this new storyline. Nice. And then they're also, when they announced Thanos is part of a new system that they're doing, which is going to be raids, which I'm really excited about. So one person gets to play the big bad guy, or you know, you can think of it as like the game master who's playing like the dragon or like the demigod or whatever.
You just
But then
sold me
everyone
on that.
else, yeah, everyone else gets to team up and try to take down Thanos. So that to me is a really exciting way to play. And I always like multiplayer formats in miniature games, and I'm glad that they've not only done multiplayer format in this, but they've also incorporated something new and something that to me makes a lot of sense, right? You know, like who doesn't love like the big team up with all the characters, like you know,
Oh yeah.
this is Thanos or Apocalypse or you know, like even Onslaught. Was it Onslaught? Whatever. When Professor X and Magneto merged together.
Oh yeah. I don't remember that one.
Yeah. But like all those things are really cool. So, and it's definitely a very comic book thing. So I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to get it in, and I can't wait to see
Well, now I'm
everyone.
gonna get the game because you can do big old raids. That's cool.
Yeah,
I love those asymmetrical kind of battles.
yeah, and it's really nice to see like that sort of system coming out from like a AAA company, because I know the guys at Atomic Mass Games are going to do it right. I know they have a great design team, they have a great art team, they have a great paint team. I've known a lot of people there from different companies through the past, and they've always impressed me with their commitment to the games that they make, and then also they very much have the mentality of we're not going to release it until it's right. So it's really exciting to see stuff come from Atomic Mass Games.
Super awesome. So you can get it today at Gigabytes Cafe, and then
Yep.
release event soon.
Yes, yeah. So we'll have a release event. I want to give people a little bit of time to assemble their stuff and at least start getting it painted. But then I want to run a big release day. We're also getting in some terrain specific to uh, Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is really exciting. And then we'll also have some additional like terrain days or hobby days where we can put stuff together. So
Sweet.
really,
And
it's
now
really,
we
really
have to pivot to the ultimate news of the day.
Oh my God!
Square bases.
What a weird announcement. So
Yeah. They didn't even put apostrophe on the round. They just said round. It's okay. It's okay.
yeah, so it is really interesting that this announcement kind of came out of the blue, but it's honestly amazing and something that a lot of the people, at least in the Gigabytes meta, has been looking forward to for a really long time. And I'm props on Games Workshop for giving it the green light and getting it going. But it's Warhammer: The Old World. Dun dun dun. So the thought process was, hey, we have Horus Heresy for 40K. Why can't we do that with Age of Sigmar and go back to the old world and make a nice companion game for Age of Sigmar that still is separate and unique, but doesn't take away from Age of Sigmar? Actually, each of them are going to be building on each other, right? So, like, if you think about it, like we get to see some of the old characters in Age of Sigmar that were such a huge deal that people have no idea really how they got their start. Like, you know, Archon the Black, Marat, their start in the old world, and they transferred over to Age of Sigmar, but now people get to kind of see the story between the two. So it's really exciting, and we'll get to see, like, you know, Teclis and Tyrion before they were gods. Same with Malekith before he became Malarian. Hopefully, I get to see all of the old Lizardmen stuff, like Mazdamundi and Slack and all that sort of stuff. And so it is incredibly exciting in terms of us old guard for Warhammer Fantasy. And I'm hoping it's exciting for the people with Age of Sigmar, even though they don't necessarily have to play the old world, but they can dive into the books, see the lore, and get to see the old world in action. See that was a moving, breathing thing that led to what Age of Sigmar is today.
Well, a lot of folks love the Total Warhammer games. They're very popular.
Yeah, and I want to say this was all coming together. This was a thought that we literally had when, you know, they done blew it up. So a lot of us were just like, well, I guess that's fine that they blew up the old world, but like, couldn't they just give us like a supplement, like Like, you don't have to necessarily release new models for the old world, but can we just like get a condensed rule book on like, you know, how to play so we can keep that going if we wanted to? And I understand from Games Workshop point that maybe that wasn't their focus and they didn't have the materials for it, and that they didn't want to take away from Age of Sigmar's release. But now that Age of Sigmar is a full-on juggernaut in its own right, in terms of models and units and all that sort of stuff, that them releasing the old world, because it has the popularity, because of things like Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, Total War 2 Warhammer. There we go. All right.
Total Warhammer 2. Oh.
That Vermintide
Warhammer 2. That's the one.
Yes. Warhammer Odyssey. And then also, if you think about it, it's huge for us because we love the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay books. And now we're getting real world expansions of Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, and then also getting Warhammer the old world all together.
So good. Now,
I'm
the
glad
question is, do we have square to round converters or round to square converters?
I want to say it's almost easier to do the round to square if you think about it.
Because you're adding extra to it, right?
Well, yes and no, but like if you get a movement tray, like you can get a movement tray and draw out round circles in it. So you can put your figures in that, and so it keeps in the movement tray just fine. And that's going to be the big deal, is the movement tray, right? So if you can fit all of your figures in the movement tray, then it's absolutely A-okay, regardless of if they're on a round base or a square base. The issue that I think a lot of people are going to run into is some of the things that were on 25 square bases are now on 32 millimeter round, and that will require them to put them back on the square base.
Oh.
So, I mean, but once again, it is still in development, so they might show up with like a 32 millimeter square.
Yeah.
Who knows? Which would be kind of cool, because that means you could use all these nice new Age of Sigmar models that are not necessarily designed for rank and file in a format, like, you know, in the other format. So I like
now, someone was asking release date, and they said 2 to 3 years from now, so 2022,
or 2021. So, but this is something where I think we will be seeing a lot of updates, just like how the Sisters of Battle, we saw a lot of, you know, the Sister Bulletin and all that sort of stuff. I expect to see probably by probably the end of next year, starting to see the Warhammer Fantasy Old World updates. You know, so getting ideas of the rules and what areas they're covering and how they're going to be introducing the armies, right? So whether they're going to do a series of campaign books like they did with the Horus Heresy, or if they're just going to come out with like one big core rule book and then the other like campaign books introducing different races and species and all that sort of stuff.
Good. I will go searching through some of the questions in case anyone has any.
Yeah, so big things to remember with the old world is that compared to Age of Sigmar, it is much more of a crunchy rule system. So Age of Sigmar had like 4 pages of rules to begin with. Warhammer Fantasy had 112. So I'm not kidding. It literally did. And so for those people who haven't had a chance to play, that's not to scare you away. It's hopefully to excite you that there is a really deep, crunchy rule system that you guys can really explore. And it really does build that like feel of massed
It's
battle.
like Necromunda versus Kill Team.
Yeah, and so once again, this is all great, right? You know, it's a way to explore things and get a different perspective. And if it turns out that the old world isn't for you, that's absolutely fine. Like I said before, enjoy it for the fluff. Enjoy it because it makes other people happy. David T. Finn, our owner, the rumor has it is when he saw the announcement, there was an audible squee that could be heard for at least 30 yards away. And so, once again,
Even
not
his
for
baby
everyone.
was like, "Calm down, Dad."
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be your cup of tea, but just understand that it will make a lot of people happy. I know one of my good friends has been sitting on a huge block of dark elves, specifically for the old world, and he's loved and cherished them and not wanted to get them away. And I hope this announcement makes him happy. So yeah, and I'm good. By the way, good on Games Workshop for announcing something 2 to 3 years away. This is pretty unheard of. You know, this is very different than the company that they used to be. So it gives people something to look forward to. I think it, John, you're right. It has a lot to go with the popularity of the old world in terms of licensing. So Total War. There's a new cell phone RPG coming out called Warhammer Odyssey. Vermintide, the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay. Like these are all really strong, really popular games in which I think it's proven to Games Workshop time after time after time that, hey, we can do the old world and we can do the old world next to Age of Sigmar and not have either one detract from each other, but hopefully have each build up with each other,
And did they ever have Vampires of the Coast as models? Exclusive to the video game.
So they were in the lore, but I don't believe they're ever specifically models, or if they were, it was from a while ago.
Well, now they got models, which is they're pretty sweet faction. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and all the stuff that and especially so we don't know whether if it's a Games Workshop thing or if it's a Forge World thing, but either way, both of these companies have a tremendous track record of producing good rules with phenomenal models. So something to be excited about. And also to know, especially me as a Lizardman player, the map they showed was definitely of the main continent of the old world. So expect things like the Empire, Bretonia, vampire counts, all that sort of stuff in the first expansion or so. And then things like Lizardmen, Lustria, Tomb Kings, all that sort of stuff to maybe be a little bit later from there. So,
Tomb Kings.
Right. So Tomb Kings comes back. I know one of our Age of Sigmar players, Jose, he's playing the Ossiarch Bone Reapers because, hey, they're the closest thing to Tomb Kings. But the moment they announced that, he was just on the announcement thread, just shouting "Cetra lives." So it's great. Like I love seeing the hype. I love seeing everyone getting excited about it. Mazdamundi was one of my favorite characters, and he sacrificed himself in the end times to get the spaceships going for the Lizardmen. So I'm hoping in the old world we get to see him come back.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool. So yeah, old worlds. Make sure you put your pre-orders in now. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. So we have no idea what's coming out, but we do have a Facebook group. So if you go to North Georgia, the Old World, on Facebook, we will be posting all of the news, rumors, and things like that we hear, as well as that'll be a great place to also see the games that have branched off of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, like Kings of War, Ninth Age, all that sort of good stuff. And we'll be posting events and hobby days and probably conversion and tips and things like that. So if you can't get enough of the old world, go to North Georgia, the old world on Facebook and join us there. I'll be posting Lizardman memes until someone bans me.
But you're the owner of the group.
David can always be
there, John.
So yeah, it's about 11:30. I need to get the shop going, but we have the great announcements. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff with Marvel Crisis Protocol, the old world, and don't forget that Necromunda Dark Uprising.
I was just about to say that.
You might be able to see behind me drops tomorrow. So it is, God. So in terms of deals, I think you get over like 30% off on the stuff in retail. So it's a great kit to pick up. Terrain, 2 gangs, 2 like double-sized gangs, by the way. So it's like 2 boxes of enforcers and the corpse makers, plus all that good stuff, and also the terrain tiles, which you can make your own board with. It's all dropping tomorrow, so definitely come in, get your books, get your dice, get the cards, do all that sort of stuff, and Yeah. Oh, also, I can't believe I forgot. We got so hyped about the old world, we forgot about the Mortal Realms. The GigaCon Grand Clash starts tomorrow. So
Even huger.
that is our 2-day Age of Sigmar event. So we'll have a lot of folks here through the weekend playing Age of Sigmar. We'll probably all be gabbing about the the old world announcement and what we're excited for and all that. So if you have any interest in the fantasy side of Games Workshop, please come by Gigabytes this weekend and join us for a great event.
Sweet. John, thank you very much. Folks, appreciate you joining us here for Wargame Weekly. If you like all the content, make sure you can also subscribe in our YouTube channel. If you look up Gigabytes TV, all one word, you can find us there. Do the whole bell notification thing. And
Oh yeah,
otherwise, share these posts, because that's the best way to get them all around Facebook, like a bacterial infection. That's a really bad analogy.
yeah, awful.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.